I was never the kind of person drawn to parties. The thump of loud music, the haze of alcohol on strangers' breath, and the hollow exchanges of forced small talk always left me feeling out of place, like I'd stumbled into a world I didn't belong in. But that night, my best friend Jake wouldn't take no for an answer. It's just a regular party, he promised, grinning as if he already knew I'd regret staying home. Nothing wild, just people hanging out. Before I could argue, he practically dragged me out of my apartment, insisting I needed to loosen up, to live a little. I didn't realize then that I wasn't just stepping out of my comfort zone. I was stepping into a night that would quietly, completely change my life. When we pulled up to the house, it looked like any other suburban gathering. Dim porch lights flickered against the dusk, music floated from a Bluetooth speaker that someone kept adjusting, and clusters of people laughed, danced, or drank in that easy, careless way that always seemed so foreign to me. I hovered near the kitchen, nursing a soda I didn't really want, watching Jake disappear into the sea of faces like he was made for these moments. I felt like a ghost at the edge of someone else's story. More than once, I thought about slipping out unnoticed, heading home to the quiet I craved. But some small voice inside me told me to stay. It's just a little longer, and that's when I saw her. She was sitting alone on the back porch, far from the music and chatter. No phone in hand, no fake smile, no effort to look like she was having fun. She just sat there, still and thoughtful, her eyes lifted to the sky as if searching for something only she could see. In the middle of all that noise, her calm presence was like a breath of clean air. I hesitated, unsure, but there was something about her, a kind of peacefulness, that drew me in. It felt like spotting a familiar face in a crowd of strangers, even though I'd never seen her before. I finally found the nerve to walk over, and with a quiet voice, I asked if I could sit with her. She glanced at me, and the smile she offered wasn't a practiced one people give at parties. It was genuine, warm, and it felt like an invitation. I sat down beside her, and from that moment, the party behind us seemed to fade away. The hours slipped by unnoticed as we talked, and it wasn't the kind of small talk I dreaded. It was easy, natural-like. We'd known each other for years instead of minutes. She told me about her love for the stars, about stargazing with her dad before he passed, about how the night sky always made her feel close to him, and I found myself sharing things I rarely said out loud, how crowds made me feel like I was drowning, how I longed for quiet moments where I could just be. She didn't judge. She didn't fill the silence with empty words. She simply listened and understood. Tully, and in her presence I felt something I hadn't felt in what seemed like forever. Seen, truly seen. The connection between us wasn't rushed or forced. It grew in the soft, unspoken spaces between our words. As the night wore on and the air grew colder, guests began to trickle out, their laughter echoing down the street, but we stayed right there on that porch, sharing a blanket. Someone had forgotten, reluctant to let the moment end. When we finally stood to leave, we exchanged numbers with promises that felt like more than polite goodbyes. And those promises held. We saw each other again, and again late-night walks under the stars, coffee dates that stretched into afternoons, movie marathons, book exchanges, quiet evenings at the park with her telescope as she taught me to trace constellations across the sky. Without even realizing it, we became each other's favorite person. Not a whirlwind romance, not some dramatic love story, but something real, steady, the kind of love that feels like coming home. Months passed, and our bond only deepened. One night, as we lay together under a sky thick with stars in the very same way we had the night we met, I finally found the words. I told her I loved her, and the way she smiled at me, soft, radiant, like she'd been waiting her whole life to hear those words from me, was a moment I'll never forget. I used to think that life's biggest changes came with noise, with grand gestures and dramatic turns. But that night, at what was supposed to be just another party, I learned the truth. Sometimes everything shifts in the quietest way, in the gentle magic of sitting beside someone who understands you without needing to say a word. I walked into that house expecting nothing. I walked out with the beginning of everything.